Hey everyone, welcome back to Two Monkeys on a Podcast. This is episode 4. I'm joined with my fellow co-host, Ethan, and a special guest today, Braden. Ethan, you're going to go on to talk about what we're going to be discussing this episode?
Sure. Thanks, Jacques. So today we decided to talk about life choices, how that affected us and how it sort of like gave us an opportunity to grow and to do the things that we like, even though sometimes it doesn't work out. I mean, it certainly was the case for me. And I figured, hey, that could be a good topic for a podcast today. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Braden, very handsome fella from Canada. So he's Jacques' friend. This is our first time having a guest on, so I guess it's like a very honor. We're very happy to have you here, Braden. So I think that's enough for the introduction. Welcome to our show, and I hope you have a good time. So Jacques, do you want to start this?
With my life goals?
Yeah.
You're putting me on the spot here, eh? Well, I wouldn't say my life goals are groundbreaking in any way. It's mainly right now getting a job because I'm in that transition point from university to going into the real world and trying to find work. So that's kind of a life goal that's just current, relevant, and that I'm working towards right now. I'm thinking about being a teacher, of course, since I've graduated from education. I'm going to be getting my honors in English. And yeah, I'm hoping to be a high school teacher. Hopefully, fingers crossed, English and fine arts. But I've heard that it's pretty rough out there, so I might be teaching French. Luckily, over the summer, I'm probably going to be doing a language program in Quebec, specifically Laval, to kind of better my French, because I've heard that there's a lot of positions open for French teachers. Another one of my life goals is actually maybe to do a comic eventually. I am a very visual person and I enjoy reading manga. I also, when I was younger, loved bande dessinée, which is like French comic book. And it's something that I've been always trying to do. For some reason, either due to laziness or not having the time, I haven't done as much as I would like in that domain, but I am hoping that one day I'm able to create my own comic. So those are two life goals that I thought of when you said that we might be talking about this topic today.
Okay.
And how about if I just say how quick? Oh yeah, you have a question?
No, I was just saying, thank you for sharing. I didn't know that you were planning to become a French teacher, but we will get to that in a second. I think we did it wrong. We need to ask Braden first because he's our guest. I'm sorry, Braden. So why don't you spend a little time telling us and our audience about yourself, Braden, and what sort of life goals that you have?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I'll humbly wear that badge of first guest of the way to start off. And a little bit of background on myself is that I guess I'm from small town Saskatchewan. I grew up in a rural setting, came to the city to pursue education of some sort with the university, ended up actually doing education probably against my own wishes at the start, but we kept with it, and I think that the positives that it would bring me. And then after that, I started about a year or so ago. I started my Master's of English program, and I'm currently wrapping up the last semester of that, so that's awesome. And throughout it all, I've kind of been tying in, especially like this third or fourth year of undergrad, I really took a strong interest in psychology. And then from there, I almost became probably addicted to it in the wrong sense, and COVID probably didn't help where you're isolated, so then you just consuming anything and any bit of information you can get your hands on. So I did that, and then that translated to me doing some graduate classes in psychology at the graduate and doctoral level. So those are pretty good opportunities, and I think I'll try and blend all those three areas into one. Sure.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say that thank you so much for spending the time being on here. With you having on here, it doesn't feel like just me and Jacques, being these two losers having a lot of time to do. It's
Two
actually
losers. Just wait a second. You can say you one loser, but one, child genius. Oh, actually, not a child. One genius.
but
Yeah. Thanks for throwing me under the bus too, eh?
but
It's too microphone, huh, Jacques?
Oh yeah.
So I have one question for you, Braden. So you mentioned about how you became this, how you started out with education, and it was against your wishes, right? So how did you end up with education? Like, did your parents told you to do so, or
Oh,
please, yeah.
it was very odd combination. I think my mom always told me basically from the third or fourth grade that she thought I'd be a very good teacher. But I remember basically from 7 years old onward, just sitting in the whole time and constantly throwing in my head saying anything but a teacher, anything but a teacher.
It doesn't seem like it was an equal kind of thing going on. It was more like one-sided, by the way you put it. What was the we decided to be a teacher? Anyway.
Yeah, it was, I remember sitting down in my right before I had my very first university class ever, and having that pop up in my mind. I'm like, how did that manage to happen? How I didn't listen to that. But yeah, it was kind of weird. I think I always kind of viewed myself as probably going into the STEM route all the way through middle school, high school. I think the expectation was to go to university in my family. And then kind of around end of grade 10, grade 11, I've always been following sports. It was basically a large part of what I did for my childhood was watching sports and playing them. And I was suggested by a family friend that maybe sports broadcasting would be a way to go. And I bit onto that so hard it wasn't even funny. And I was planning on traveling to go wherever I needed to do that. And I was so set on it. And I remember grade 12 years, you have all the job fairs and university fairs and stuff like that coming into your high school. And then I had the St. Peter's College, which is not too far from where I grew up. And they had an English program. I thought, well, I should probably if I'm going to do broadcasting, English would be a good thing to work on, or being able to articulate yourself clearly, something like that. And it's close to home. I should be able to do that for a relatively good price. And in my own community, though, U of R was offering a Bachelor of Education program, and I could tell my parents were kind of encouraging me to do that. And last minute, I had my bags packed essentially. I was going to go get my diploma. And then I remember Dad just kind of went up to me. He's like, maybe you should just consider this education a little bit more. And I'll do it. And then I guess another thing to that too is the allure to St. Peter's was also that they're right next to a junior hockey team called the Humboldt Broncos. And they were St. Peter's and the Broncos had a connection for their radio network broadcast, and they said we could hook you up if you wanted to get some experience while you did your diploma. So that seemed very intriguing. But I considered that a little bit, but I went with the education route, and I guess it kind of worked out because a year after that, I decided to go to education, was actually, you probably heard about the Humboldt Broncos tragedy. They had
Yes, I did.
And had I stayed and went to St. Peter's and not listened to my father, I would have more than likely been on that bus and then been in the front of that bus. So that was something I did, or narrowly avoided, thankfully. So I did education, and I think as soon as I entered that, I talked to an academic advisor, and they said, well, if you want to do English, maybe you could do this education degree and do a master's after. And that just became the goal after, from that point on. And I just toughed my way through education classes because I did not like them at all. There was nothing you could do to like them, and I still don't think I really like them.
They're different than what you would expect from an education course. I remember I was talking to, I wonder if it was Gary, and he said that oh, do you learn how to present so well from education? And I was like, actually, we don't really learn anything about presenting ourselves in front of a crowd in education. We do presentations, but we don't do much about learning how to teach to people.
No.
But before I go on to that tangent, let's quickly talk about the Broncos, because that's very familiar with like the Regina community, but it might not be like a familiar event for other people. Do you know about it, Ethan?
No idea. I'm kind of like
Okay,
out of the loop here. Please.
So I'll try and summarize it a little bit,
Yeah.
but I think Braden probably has a better knowledge than me. So what happened was the Broncos team, do you know exactly where they're from again, Broncos?
They're from. It's not
Humboldt?
far.
Oh, okay. I think you're cutting out a little bit, but
Sorry.
yeah.
Humboldt is where they're from.
Okay. And so they're on a bus. And as I understand it, they're going, somewhere for a game. And a semi, I think, was making a turn onto the highway. And then there was a collision. Is that exactly what happened? Do you remember?
Oh, like it's actually happened not too far from where I have a lot of family around there. It was they're in a playoff series, so like you play 7 games and whoever wins 4 first wins the series and moves on. And they're playing against the Nipawin Hawks, who are a little bit north of Humboldt, and they are heading up there again to play probably their last games of that series. And they're on the highway, and a big piece of machinery going on the highway, like 100 plus kilometers an hour. And what happened was they were going north, and they were at an intersection, and they were going through that, and one of the guys driving a semi-truck was going another direction on the other road that intersects with the one the Broncos were on. And it was kind of like 5 o'clock or so the sun was pretty low, and it was shining pretty bad. So the semi-driver pulled out in front of them, and then they ran right into the semi-truck, and I think I was 16 or something like that died, and 29 were on the bus. A lot of them that survived have lifelong injuries, so it was a very serious matter.
It really was. Like, it was a very tragic event, and there was posters everywhere with the Broncos. And I think the university even had like kind of like a monument outside of Riddell Center that was just dedicated to the Broncos for a little while.
Okay.
So yeah, you really did escape kind of a terrible situation if you thought you might have been on that bus. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. How do you? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was thinking because like a year or 2 years before that, when I moved to Melfort, I went to play volleyball provincials in a place called La Loche, which is a northern community in Saskatchewan. We went there too, and our team actually ended up winning, which was awesome. We stayed in the school there at La Loche, and like 2 weeks after, they had a shooting at the school. So, it's like, man, I don't know who my guardian angel is, but they're doing some.
That actually, I know we're kind of straying away from the life goals point.
No, it's okay.
And we'll get there eventually. And, this is a very free-formed podcast. Ethan actually asked me, I don't think it was on a podcast, when we were on a call in private, like about shootings in Canada and the United States. And he was very, very worried about like possibly getting shot, because he went to Vancouver and then he got a warning on his cell phone that said, there's a shooter on the loose, be careful. And he was like, oh my goodness, this would never happen in Vietnam. And I said to him, don't worry about it, Ethan. Like, they just put those notices out there so that like the police at least like, they won't get in trouble for not like alerting the public. But a lot of these events, like, it's very rare that you're actually going to get shot in like Canada. Are you of the same opinion as me, Braden, or am I like completely full of bullshit here?
No, I think something. I don't know how, but in like a 2-year span, I happened to narrowly avoid the biggest.
Near-death experiences.
That's life.
Yeah, that is life. During my last During episode 1, I talked about a few of my near-death experiences. It seems like many people have those kind of experiences. Talking about that now, I just realized something, Ethan.
What?
What's with our title for episode 2?
What do you mean?
Putin invades Ukraine, and now I can't afford. Is it
It's lettuce.
lettuce?
I just think it's funny.
No wonder. Now I'm thinking back to your thesis and how it got rejected. And I'm seeing the connections here. If you didn't know, Ethan was going to be writing his thesis on Justin Trudeau's uses of pronouns in Ukraine. And he got the thesis rejected. I don't know if you're comfortable with me talking about
That's
this, Ethan.
totally
You can cut
okay.
this
I mean,
out
it got
if you don't.
rejected, so
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, what's with you, like, connecting everything to world leaders?
I have no comment on that. I just think it's funny. But anyway, back to Braden. I just have one thing to ask him. I should say him. So clearly, that during the time that you grew up, you clearly have a very strong identity with sport and with maybe doing other things other than education, like going into STEM and all of that. So I wanted to know how you feel, now that you have to like let go that sort of identity, then go into education. Was it good? Was it bad? Like, are you glad that you made that, or like, was it difficult for you to let go of that identity?
Well, I'm certainly glad I made the decisions anyways. But yeah, they were big learning curves, I think. The STEM one wasn't too big because like I wasn't too dedicated to it. I think I can let go of the dreams that my 11-year-old or 12-year-old self had there because he was playing the NHL. So I think it was more getting used to that and learning curves like with life because like I had moved, like I lived in one place my whole life until I was 16 and then go to a new place for ages 6, 17. So you try and make friends with new people. And then after that, you graduate and now you have to make new friends. And it was just a lot of turnover, I think, and trying to find good friend groups. And I like I said earlier, I was at the local college at the start. So like it was a small town. There's not very many people to choose from as far as friends go. Like, I think the best way to explain would be like in my class, we had like a little under 100 people graduate as part of our class. And I think I figured it out too, like 2 years removed from graduation, we had like, I think it was 5 or less people were in the town at that time, including myself. So it's like, well, you're choosing between 4 other people then. And I think that was just trying to figure that out and isolate and also trying to get education going because like you have to try and do everything with the university, but it's just, you're still a long ways away from it and try and make sure everything times out and works well for you. And then battling an injury from sports, ironically enough, right at when I graduated, took about a year or so so that was another learning curve too, and other personal troubles too. But.
When I did sports, it was really a gamble because you had to be good. Like, of course, if you practice a lot, you naturally get good. But still, there are levels. And there are some people who are just really good. And then on the other side, like if you practice too much, you get injured. And then you're like really like you don't know when you're going to be fully recovered. They can give you like a bit of a timeline, things like that. But you never really know like if you're going to get better or not. So it really did feel like gambling almost, where if you wanted to make it in the industry, you had to be like one of the best. But then also like the road to get there was such a like unpredictable thing.
Well, and it's a bit too, because like even if you take these risks, it's like, well, what are you getting back in return? Like that was the one thing I kind of found, like even looking at the college thing, like you can dedicate so much of yourself to that, but like there's going to be a small amount of people that are going to get the scholarship, and like I think you don't want to put yourself too much into that position or invest yourself too much into trying to make it through athletics too, because like you said, injuries can happen and it can all be taken away anyways.
Very interesting story, Braden. I've noticed someone hasn't shared their life goals yet. in our call, and I kind of want to hear their opinions since we're putting our hearts on the line.
I will get there, I promise you. I just have one more question to
Okay.
Braden because I got to, the background of Braden and how he came to be, the guy that study in education. I think it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of things that I find kind of relatable in a sense. And I just have one question, like the final question. Would you want so if there's a chance for you to steer back to your route of, doing this podcast about sports in education, like let's say you've done your education degree now, and maybe there's a job opportunity that maybe you can do something related to sport. Would you do it?
I think I'd have to probably not, because I don't learn to draw like a big salary or anything.
Yeah, okay.
I think the challenge also, I noticed, especially from the time like when I graduated high school and started doing university to now, we can see that there's other forms of media that are really taking off. Like the podcast is a perfect example.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're just up there in the stars, taking millions of views every day.
Well,
Truly relevant.
Podcast that gets far viewers than like a TV program does, that completely changes the game. And then you don't really, the cost being able to put that product out is diminished a crazy amount. It's a real game changer. I think I kind of noticed that right before the pandemic, and then the pandemic really emphasized that. But if I'm going to return to the broadcast road, I'd kind of like to have that option and then have a little bit more say in what I put out there myself and not have to maybe pander to others so much. I think that makes things just like how we're talking here, just sharing our own thoughts, and I can make some.
Yeah.
No, I think that was a really good question, Ethan, and I think that was a great answer, Braden. Like, how long will, you're right. If you do a podcast, you're not as liable, and also you're not as constrained by the system of a business. You can just kind of record yourself, put it on YouTube, and kind of freeform it almost.
Well, that was what I was thinking too, is because when I wanted to go sports business, it was pretty clear to me. It was like the business, especially in Canada, seemed like it needed to kind of get shaken up with someone saying what they really meant and not these generic things. And then I realized, well, it's going to be tough to do that within the corporation. And then we have these new developments and innovation and podcasting and different technologies. The question then becomes, well, why would you try and go and deal with the corporations then and work somewhere else when you can have your own voice?
That's true. Especially when you work for the corporation, and it's like the thing that you want to do. When you work in that sort of environment, it stopped becoming entertaining, like something you do for fun. It's like something you have to do for other people, and I think that's it certainly takes the fun away. And then now it's become like a boring corporate job now.
Or like this on corporations, but I think it's being like propaganda versus art. When you have what's going to be said is already decided before it's been said. Well, then it starts to come off as superficial, and everyone sees that. Or as if you can go into that and do something sincere and try to figure out what's at the bottom of things, it's more artful in that event, and I think people are drawn to that more.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I'm sure, because I get texts from Ethan. Well, not as much anymore now that you're no longer doing your internship. But I used to get a lot of texts from Ethan talking about his internship, where he was really much in a corporation doing translation, and he was just talking about how he's working for the company, and all his own personal goals and ambitions are going to the wayside because he has to translate X number of documents that are so boring to translate and that don't help him at all evolve as a person.
Yeah, I certainly felt like sorry, I keep cutting you off, Braden. But I was just planning to say it certainly felt like my life would sucked away all of the things that I like, all the things that I want, it's out the window. Now I have this X amount of document need to finish today. And I used to like translating. Like I love that sort of stuff, because I'm pretty good, using the two language, and I feel like I can articulate those two language at the same time pretty well. But then once
What
you're
a
in that sort of
weirdo.
persist,
Love translating.
but
So keep going, keep going.
but once you're in that sort of environment, it just doesn't matter anymore. People don't care about who you are or what you do or how good you are. People care about what you can turn for the company. And so I think that was one of the reasons why I kept on complaining to Jacques about, oh my God, I'm wasting my life at this company.
Every day, like either a cat picture or like a
What do you mean?
complaint.
What do you mean?
And he when he started, he was like, "Oh, this is the perfect job. I really love translating."
It
What
is.
a weirdo. And then translating the best. And then I was like, I'm just gonna wait a few weeks and then he's gonna be complaining. And I was completely right.
It is a good job.
This, that,
It's not a
the other
good company. But anyway, Braden, were you saying something?
I was just thinking it's tough because like it's a relationship, and you go into there looking to try and create something together where it's like you have to try and make sure everyone's trying to get what they want. Whereas like when you work for yourself, well, you have to have that relationship dimension, I guess. But the trade-off is that you take on more responsibility, and whether you succeed or fail, whether you see that in like a monetary terms, like as far as making money, then you have to be able to shoulder that. And I think I'd be willing to take that bet or that risk anyway myself. But it's not everyone is, and I'm not going to get mad at them or blame them for that, because that's a tough thing to take on.
You hear that, Jacques?
Yeah. So when are you gonna come out with your life goals? It's been 15 minutes, and you said that you'd get to them. I want to make fun of you.
Okay. So where do I even start? I mean, I think I should start by introducing myself to Braden, because he doesn't know a whole lot about me, unlike you, Jacques.
Okay.
Besides from the things that Jacques told you, I'm actually an English major studying here in Hanoi, Vietnam. And I had I got myself into this program hosted by the U of R last year, and that's how I met Jacques. But that's also the funny thing, because I never actually planned to be an English major. I actually never planned to study here in the first place, because when I was 18, I really had this ambition that I'm gonna study abroad. I'm gonna find myself a school. I'm gonna learn the language somewhere. I'm gonna get myself a scholarship, and I'm gonna go there. And if anyone disagree with me that it's a bad idea, I'm gonna hate them. Even my family. But yeah, I was thinking about going to Japan. Maybe study 4 years there. Maybe studying in urban planning. I love, there was a phase of me just being super interested in engineering and urban planning. And I was thinking about studying that in Tokyo or maybe in Osaka, Japan. I got my language degree certificate, and everything was ready. And then my visa got canceled. It was rejected. Not one, not twice, but 3 times in the span of a year. And as you can tell, it was pretty rough for me to take that. And also it was really rough for us financially as well, because applying for to go to Japan and then studying there, living there is expensive, and the amount of fee that you have to pay for these companies so that they fill out the forms for you and they do all the documents for you. It was really expensive, so we were in debt. And at some point, I was like, you know what? Maybe, maybe I should, rethink this and try to steer my life in a way that's practical. And so that's when I decided to think of a major that I would like. And I settled down with English major because obviously it's the thing that I'm pretty good at. And I think I can, make money of it. So I told my mom, and I applied to a school. Luckily, they were willing to take me in with a scholarship as well. So I decided to leave. Instead of going to Japan, I go to Hanoi and I learn my degree here. I get my degree here. And it's very funny because at the time, I'd never imagined myself doing something like this, like going to college, a Vietnamese college, and studying and staying in Vietnam, that sort of stuff. But I just had to take that bet. It was like the only option that we had left. And it's kind of funny because doing that, even though it's not something that I wanted, it also allowed me to do the things that are really cool. And I meet a lot of cool people like Jacques, through my college. There's this, they were in a network of universities, and the U of R was also in it. And they have this network, and they introduced me to the program, and then I applied to it, and I got it, and I met Jacques, and I had a good time in Regina. And now that I think back, back then when I was 19, if I didn't take that chance, all of these things, right, all of this podcast, all of me talking to you right now, it wouldn't have happened. And I think it's cool that way. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Can I make a quick comment?
Sure.
I make fun of Ethan every single episode, and I tear him down. But the truth is, Ethan, he's very dedicated. He will look at the whole process for, whatever goal he wants to accomplish, and he'll go through the whole process. When he came here, he was very much like one of the first people we let into the program because his marks were amazing, and he was very dedicated to what he was doing. And then after the program, when he went back to Vietnam, he said that he's coming to Canada, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then a few weeks later, he was going through the whole process to coming here early, way before anyone else would. And he was getting admitted early too, because he was just contacting the right people. He was going through the right process. So he is very much a person who knows kind of how to get what he wants, and who can, do the work towards getting things accomplished. So that's the strength with Ethan.
Thank you, Jacques. I don't know. I just think I'm very lucky. That's all.
So,
whatever you say.
But you plan on staying in Vietnam. So would you consider yourself you said you're lucky. Would you consider yourself lucky that happened then?
I would say yes. I was pretty lucky with the. Wait, so what was the major part of the question again? Were you asking about me staying here in Vietnam, or me going to Regina?
Because you said, right at the start, you never envisioned yourself staying in Vietnam.
Right.
And then right after Jacques had his little excerpt there, he said that, or you said that you were really lucky.
Mm.
So I was wondering, do you think that maybe because of all this, that maybe staying in Vietnam actually worked out for the better then?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe. Yeah. Because here's the funny thing. If I actually made it to Japan, right, things would have been really bad for me, because as soon as I leave Vietnam for Japan, the pandemic happened, right? And you can imagine living alone in a foreign country with no money in my pocket, speaking a language that I don't understand, and having no sort of connection whatsoever. That would have been hard. That would have been really, really hard. And I keep telling my mom, hey, remember the time that I didn't go to Japan? I'm really glad I didn't, because I look around and I see people complaining about life in Japan and how they're struggling in Tokyo amidst of the pandemic, and I look at them and be like, oh my God, thank God I didn't go. It's not yeah, sorry, Jacques, you want to say something?
I was gonna say, okay, I complimented Ethan. Now I'm gonna tear him down again, like I usually do. Yeah, I don't think you would have survived either, Ethan. Like this guy, he'll text me about issues in Regina that I have no idea about, and he'll be worrying about them. Like I feel like you in a foreign country with only the internet to keep you company, you'd be like just dying of like just worry, like depression
5,000
and
more.
worrying and like all that other stuff. Ethan, like he's very dedicated, but he's also kind of mushy. Where like he'll get like wound up about like very small issues. For example, like going out and buying underwear.
Does that imply that you aren't mushy then, Jacques?
Okay, in comparison to Ethan, yes, I'd say I am not mushy in comparison to you. How about you, Braden? Are you mushy?
What do you mean by that exactly?
You don't seem like the type who'd want to admit that you're mushy. Not nervous before your presentations. Doesn't want to lower himself to the idea of gossiping with another human being. That he's having what was it called?
Pretty quick once you go to the level of gossiping. But I don't know. I'd say I'm vulnerable, as every human being is. But
okay. I can admit vulnerability too.
Sure.
It's just, I think Ethan is like, if we're using vulnerable as like a term that is like human, like every man has, Ethan would be like, I don't know, what's a tier above vulnerable, like, at the point of breaking down.
It's not that bad.
Small
if you think that's me breaking down, then I think the moment when I break down, it will be a lot worse. but anyway, I remember like now we're talking about Regina. Jacques is actually true. I overthink about stuff a whole lot, and I keep thinking about the things that are happening. I actually follow the news in Regina more than Jacques does. And I think that's pretty funny.
The snow's pretty bad in Regina, and I'll be like, "Oh, really?" I'll look out the window. I'm like, "I guess he is right. It is kind of bad in Regina right now."
I guess that's just the student life. Like, all you do is you wake up and you read, and then you write, go to class, and do it all over again.
Yeah. Literally all I'm thinking about
happening outside the campus walls just doesn't bother you, or isn't.
I guess that's where Jacques and I are kind of different, because he is actually living in Regina and having his own thing doing right now, and that's like the only thing that matters to him. And right now for me is just waiting. Back then I was waiting for my visa, and I got my visa, and now I'm just waiting for my admission and my letter of acceptance from the U of R. So basically I'm just waiting, right? And well, as you can imagine, I get pretty anxious about the whole waiting thing. So, I start reading about Regina as a way to like, oh, hey, this is going to be my life in the next 6 months. So I wonder, what can I be prepared for it? So I just...
He doesn't go to verified news places. He like tells me, do you see what was like posted on Reddit just like a minute ago? So like...
Do you see that one account with 26 followers on Twitter posted on something like that?
But anyway, Japan, Vietnam, Regina.
Anyway, just going back to like how great Ethan is. Like again, like he does think things through. Like he's going to Regina, and he's like got scholarships. His tuition's covered. He's got like an allowance. He's like his accommodations covered. He just like did everything in advance, except the visa.
Except for the visa.
Quite a
little bit out of his control, maybe.
Yeah. But anyway, back to my point I was trying to say. I guess staying in Vietnam really worked out for me. It's not perfect. It's not like I got everything that I want, but it's life. What can you do? But I'm very glad that that 18-year-old me saw that and was like, okay, maybe I need to step down and rethink my life. And it turned out great. Yeah, of all the things that I did, this is probably like the coolest. Like, I get to see a lot of cool people. I meet them. I go to places. I get to do podcasts with them. And I make friends. And I think staying here really allowed me to do that. And it really shows that it doesn't matter where I go, to be honest. It doesn't matter what I do. As long as I
Hey,
what?
I wish I had a roommate who was female
Oh, come on.
and like
Are we
any
going
female
to-
friends. Like, you
Are
know,
we going that now?
I can see why you like Hanoi.
I don't like it that much, and I don't like it because I have a female roommate.
Oh, sure.
Easy does it, Joe.
And many cats, and, you know, a moped where you like can go wherever you want. And you like show me pictures of ice cream and things like that. I could like that life too.
Oh, we can have that life if you stay in Regina. Hey, why don't we? If I ever make it to Regina this August, why don't we just go out and have an ice cream? How about that? You know?
Sure, we can invite Braden. We can invite a few of our other classmates, Braden. We can meet him to Ethan. And knowing Ethan, he'll woo them right away.
Oh, wait.
Stop
He's
it.
just got charisma, not 20 roll or what all the time.
Oh, when you meet Ethan, we have to do what's the archetype guy again? You see, I have
Carl
terrible
Jung.
memory. What? Carl
Carl
Jung? Carl Jung. We should like to find which archetype here.
We should. Although, to be fair, I've had like many people, like in the tens of people, ask me what archetype I think they are, and I don't think I've had one person ever happy with what archetype I tell them they are. I think at this point I should just quit and do anything.
Yeah. We were talking about that all of today, Ethan, like archetypes and the
Get
people
people's
that
reception.
Braden's pissed off.
And only like the last week too. It's been amazing. Bridges you can burn so quickly.
Braden's really good at burning bridges. I'm saying that partly jokingly.
I know.
Partly jokingly.
Okay, back to life goals. So I was kind of wondering, like, do you guys have that sort of experience where you have to, like, life goals that didn't work out for you? Like, you just think of yourself doing that for the rest of your life, but apparently that's not how way life is. You know, it doesn't want you to be that way, so that you have to like let go of that idea. And once you let that go, well, even though it kind of sucks that you didn't get to do the things that you wanted to do, it's a good thing. So I was wondering, like, if you guys do have that sort of experience. It's not about just like a life goal or like the thing that you want to do, or maybe just like a plan that you had and it didn't work out. The girl that you dated and you guys broke up.
I was just thinking of that. Like, literally, the description you just said is like any guy and like a girl that he's dated. And being like, oh, I really hope this works out, and it not working out. Like, that's the easiest answer.
But yeah, so do you have anything like that you want to share?
I think like the sports broadcasting thing was like that because it was like 5 years in where I kind of had to face that fact, and I was pretty committed to it. And like, I think I was planning on like getting my master's of English anyways, but then I was going to go to Toronto and then enter the big sports broadcasting college of Canada and do that. And that would have been a pretty big thing. Like, none of my parents or anyone like that in my family, extended or otherwise, has ever been anywhere close to Toronto or anything, or hardly ever left Saskatchewan for that matter.
Right.
So like, that would have been a big thing. But I think it kind of got smoothed over. It wasn't too bad of a transition when you kind of see like the direction that things were going in. It's like, well, if you wanted to do it your way, well, that's not really an option anymore. So if you can do it another way that's even better, well, it'll work. And then, so that made it a little easier. I think sports were kind of like that in a sense, but I kind of, like in my grade 11, 12 year, I kind of knew that I was kind of getting to the end of it, and I was all right with that because my body was starting to feel a few things. And then I got injured right at the end of the year, which that wasn't related to the other injuries, but like I was starting to see, well, maybe what I was going through here, what the potential benefits could be if I pursued the athletic path all the way to its end. I just didn't think I was going to get reap the benefits that I thought I earned.
But you do enjoy the path that you went down currently, right? With education and psychology.
Yeah, and I think that was like, I know I talked about the education classes earlier, that I just didn't like them. But as soon as I got to my internship part where I was teaching in the classes, it was like, this is a totally different game. This is terrible. I can see a future here. I can carve out some sort of space for myself. So that worked out well, and it just seems like I keep stumbling into things I'm so interested in. Like it's that education went right into the English, and the English went into the psychology, and then I've been doing other artful things. You could say, like I've been playing music a little bit, things like that.
Oh.
Other artistic endeavors, writing, otherwise.
What sort of instrument did you play?
I started with a guitar, actually.
Oh.
So this summer I've been really into it. I got it. My grandfather had one, and he kind of lost the ability to use his fingers properly to accent, so he gave it to me, and that started me down that path.
That's really cool. That's good. Yeah. I played a guitar too back in high school. I was in a band actually.
Okay.
Yeah, we started out. So my brother is a guitarist and a music producer, and he started out, playing a lot of music back in the high school time, and I got it from him. He had a lot of guitars lying around, and one day he was like, "Hey, Ethan, why don't you just play guitar and practice, with me, that sort of stuff." So now we talk about goals again. I actually planned to become a full-time guitarist in a band. That didn't work out, as you can tell.
You had a lot of plans. I can see why you wanted to do this life goal.
Well, it was your idea, so. But yeah, anyway.
I guess
the story will come later. But yeah, it's really cool to know that you actually play guitar too. What about you, Jacques? Do you have any sort of experience like that you want to share?
I'll share one. Before I share it, I just want to say what Braden said kind of made me thinking about university and how many opportunities university offers you. Like, some people don't take full advantage of it. So if we ever do another podcast, talking about university might be a cool topic. Braden and I have kind of talked a little bit about it before, and I think that it's pretty deep, it's pretty interesting, and kind of talking about university, going to university versus going just straight to the workplace, right?
Yep. Okay.
So that's something we can definitely talk about. Now, for life goals that haven't quite worked out, I don't know if this necessarily counts, but I'm going to try and do something a little different than Braden, because yes, I was also very sports oriented in at least high school, and then had to kind of pivot towards the more academic side. So I did competitive swimming for God knows how long, a very long time. I was really good at breaststroke. And I got pretty up there on the kind of list of performance or whatever. Like I was pretty high up there in kind of my qualifications with breaststroke.
Look at that.
So I decided to quit out of that, and then I did a bit of triathlon. And triathlon isn't as competitive. There aren't as many people competing in triathlon. So I also got pretty high up there in triathlon too, and had to quickly drop out because I was realizing it was going into a direction that I just didn't think was sustainable. So after that, I was kind of just like wandering around high school, because I was the leader of chess club, and I was also part of many other clubs, but there was nothing I was too passionate about. So I decided to do art. I decided I'm going to become very passionate about art, and I'm going to be probably going to go to university and do something fine arts related. And of course that didn't work out, because as soon as I proposed that to my mom, she said, "No way you're doing art. If you're going to do art, you have to fund it all yourself." And I'm like, well, I don't have a part-time job, so like I'd be like spending a year gathering the money to like pay for it, then going in debt. The other condition she said was if I was going to do art, I had to go to New York. And I was like, wow, that's going to be even more expensive than I'm planning. However, if I went into law school, she'd pay the whole thing. I could do it as many years as I wanted, as long as I wanted, as long as I was in law school. Anyway, I said, okay, I need to think of a way to do art, but also kind of, do something that she might accept. And that's where education came in. perfect. Not only do I get to do fine art, but I also get to do English, which was my best class in high school, and the one that was the most passionate, aside from fine arts. And there's a job attached to it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do education instead. And there's a third reason why I chose education, which I still believe in to this day. In high school, I noticed, all these other people, they wanted to get out of high school. I realized high school is the good life. Like, that's when everyone, has a bright future in front of them. They aren't thinking necessarily about their depression. Yeah, there's some students who are depressed and things like that. But they're still, they've got a large future ahead of them. I was like, working in a place where everyone's optimistic about their future must be great. Instead of working in a prison or something where everyone's depressed all the time and thinking about how terrible life is, I want to go somewhere where people still have hope. Yeah, it might be misguided hope. They're soon going to be crushed by the wheels of society. But still there's that little bit of intact hope left. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. So that's kind of maybe a life goal that kind of failed in a way, but led to something better. And now I got to meet Braden, Ethan, and all these other friends that I have in university. So I think it worked out well.
So about the place, the sort of environment that you want to be in. So is it do you think it comes from teaching or it comes from the people? The students, the teachers, your coworkers, that sort of stuff?
Of course, it's many factors, but I think the primary thing is youth. When you're young,
right.
You just have so much time in front of you, right?
Wish I
I
could
don't
say
know
the
if
same.
that's the same reason you felt for education, Braden, but that's how I got hoped into it. And then, I did the courses like you, and they weren't terrible, but I will admit they were very repetitive and very similar to one another.
The way I always described it, especially the education classes more in particular, is you've heard of the term shooting fish in a barrel, and I think I described it as trying to shoot a sturgeon in a paddling pool. It just feels like the thing's just going around and around again in this shallow little water. It felt like it just lacked the depth, I thought. And then I think it also rubbed me a little bit the wrong way that when there was theory and stuff that they relied on, it was always psychologists that they used, but they never said they're psychologists because they wanted to have the idea that they're all education people at some point. So I think that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I kind of felt like there's a little dishonesty with some of that and how it was being advertised in the class. But
kind of similar with English, though, right? When we write an essay, we have a theorist, but the theorist isn't necessarily an English theorist. We do Shakespeare, who is of course, what I'd call an English kind of theory-oriented person. But when we do someone like Hegel, I don't think he'd be I'm an English domain person,
his writing on poetics might disagree with you, but I know your point though. I think I don't have any problem with that, borrowing from different disciplines and stuff like that. I think what bothered me is what I think I found in the classroom. They're kind of trying to pass them off as people that studied strictly education, and just felt like there's a little dishonesty there.
We didn't learn too much about practice, so actually what to do, how to go in front of students and teach confidently, tricks to doing that. We learned about
tricks,
how to identify students who were struggling. Well, no, we didn't really learn that either. We learned how to identify. You know what? Let's not go deeply into this. I think this is exactly the type of comments that will get me
No,
red button. Okay, I have a joke with Ethan all the time that one day I'm going to be pressing the red button and we're going to delete all the videos off of the face of our channel because I don't want to get in trouble for the things I say when I'm dumb.
And they'll pull them all up.
I just caught myself. I realized I was going down that domain, and for the sake of this channel, I really do believe that the education that we got in the education program was good.
Mm.
It was like very valuable. It might not have been the most thrilling all the time, but yes, I'll put it at that.
I just have one comment is that it's really interesting to know like what do you guys do in your major, because here education and English are very different from the ones that you're familiar with in Regina. Like Jacques said, I'm not gonna say anything that put me in jeopardize, but English here, when people talk about English major, it's more about not writing and not literature, but it's more about how you use the language. So we study about linguistics, we study about translating and interpreting, we study about running essays and stuff, but it's not just about literature. We also study about economy, politics, communication, all this sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's very different, and I think that's really cool. And also teaching as well. Here's more about, I think, well, it's not like I know a whole lot of people studies education, but my whole family, my big family, a lot of them, 80% of them are teachers, full time. They've been there for like 30 years, 40 years. They're old, they're getting old now. But anyway, most of the stuff that they do in teaching school is basically how do you present your information to the student so that they would understand. So like that's basically what the major is. So it's really interesting to know that you guys actually not focusing on that over there. That's new to me.
I think that would have been beneficial though to have what you're describing. I participated in that. I'm starting to think we're missing out on something here.
That's kind of what I was getting at. I'm feeling uncomfortable here talking about it, judging that like this is online.
Anyway, let's you don't want to talk about it. Let's switch the subject.
Let's stick to life goals for now. We can maybe like once we get like money off of this thing and a humongous audience that we don't need to worry about like the future, maybe we can get into like some juicy deep topics that like will get us in trouble. But like generally the university has treated me well, and I'm so optimistic for the future.
Jacques is saying like.
Why do you say that? Like they have like a gun?
I was literally gonna say that. I was like, there's like a person behind his camera holding his mom.
I have to turn off my camera for a second. I'll still be like talking through the mic, but don't worry. I am okay. I'm healthy. Everything's good over here. Yes, I'll make sure to mention that. Go U of R, best university around. I'm back.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like I've had plenty of opportunities. Like the U of R has offered me so much. Like I think the professors have been awesome to collaborate, and you can tell that they're here to teach, and that's something that's really great.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we were talking about like how
he's got the gun now and next to his head. For the viewers who can't see our cameras.
Say it so robotically though.
Well, we were talking about like how great U of R is. Then I think I'm the kind of person who has a lot of good things to say about the U of R. And no, they're not putting a gun behind my back or something. But I actually believe it's a really good place. Judging from the people that I met, the experiences, the sort of like you guys are trying to build a good image, right? I'm gonna say that you guys did a very good job of that because
Ethan's saying this because he knows that his tuition, his scholarships are at stake. His free tuition might go if he's too critical here.
I'm just
he doesn't need a gun next to his head.
But no, you guys actually made a really good impression to me, and I think I've never got that sort of treatment here. Even like my university also treat me very well. They pay me a lot of stuff, including my tuition. But the U of R is the sort of place that I feel like it's a place that there's people are treated nicely. Students get to do the sort of stuff that they care about. The
Oh, Ethan, is
What?
there a difference between your university and the U of R? Please criticize your university. Tell us more, Ethan.
Jock, you're aware that
it's
just because
true.
he loses his scholarship doesn't mean the money goes to you, right?
Well, you see, like they saw episode 1, 2, and 3, and then they said, okay, we're going to cut his thesis. And then, if he comes out with an extra one, that's going to be him getting kicked out of the department. And then, the 5th episode, that's him getting kicked out of the university. If you don't know, viewers, Ethan put in his thesis proposal, and it got rejected.
Twice.
And the reason they gave was it wasn't specific enough. And as I said before, his topic was Trudeau using pronouns in reference to the Ukraine crisis. How much more specific can a topic like that be?
All right, okay, now.
We want to keep good relations in Vietnam.
Yeah. Maybe this is the part we should be cutting out.
Yeah. I will not say anything. But anyway, yeah.
Ethan's university, Hanoi, best university in the country.
Vietnam, beautiful country. Best place to live. Truly. Anyway, we've been talking for like an hour.
Okay.
And
One point I
only
just
one
want
of
to
us
make.
has shared our life goals.
We barely shared anything. Braden, you're talking about how when you're part of a company, you self-censor and things like that, you not get in trouble. I don't think the podcast is too different.
But anyway,
There's at least something good because they keeps everything on tracks, and I guess one of 3 people sharing their life goals. Maybe we need a little bit more guidance ourselves.
Yeah, maybe we need the big overarching company.
Maybe.
We think we want freedom, but really, it's like Brave New World. We want security.
Okay, so I feel like as we reach the 1 hour mark, let's wrap this up with a message. So clearly we all have stories about how life didn't work out for us. So what is the sort of message you want to send out there for people who are listening to this? Maybe they also
Can
share.
we not give your typical run-of-the-mill message?
What do you
Let's
mean?
think of some. I know what you're gonna come up with, Ethan.
No.
Despite the struggles, despite things not working out,
No.
you have to stay
You got
true.
it.
Okay.
I actually look forward to this part because I get to know how the lesson that you got from your experience, and I think different person with different experience will have different message to send out there. So Braden, why don't you start? So what is the sort of message you want to send out there?
In one sentence.
Well, it can be. It all depends on you, but yeah, go ahead.
I think one thing I'd say that I think is a good way of viewing it is to do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. And that's kind of how I always gauge myself as we go through these different changes like we've talked about for the last hour or so,
Right.
is to make sure you're not just doing something that maybe is a little easier or anything. Do something that you think is worthwhile and that you're interested in, and think that you could put yourself best self put forward. Try to reach your true potential and treat yourself as though if you don't realize that, maybe it'd be kind of a tragedy for the world in that sense.
What about you, Jacques? Do you have anything to share, or you're gonna
Okay,
shit?
now I have to become deep. I have to shed my jester personality. Isn't that it? The jester archetype. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think I've known a lot of people who've pursued their dreams, and they've pursued them foolishly. I think it's important to pursue your dream, but you also have to be rational about it. And you have to plan things out ahead of time. I knew someone who really worked hard towards their dream and didn't really have a backup plan. And when their dream didn't work out, they're kind of in this idle situation. I think what I learned is that, okay, I want to do art. It doesn't look like it's going to work the way I planned it to work. So I have to think about a cool way of incorporating art into a different plan, or making a different plan that has this underlying motive to actually pursue art. And yeah, I think usually there's answers there. There's always a way that you can do what you want to do. You just have to do it a little bit differently than you initially planned. And now it's your turn, Ethan. You're on the spot. The spotlight's on him.
Well, I think I'm just gonna repeat the things that you guys mentioned here. But
And you said, "Oh, I'm not gonna use."
okay, wait. Hold on.
I'm expecting greatness.
I'm not going to regurgitate anything except what you two guys just said, huh?
Yeah. Top 5 of his university, by the way. Seems like a real, building his own path in life, taking the road not taken, eh? Come on, Ethan.
No.
Show us.
No.
Show us something. Do it for
I think the message that I'm trying to send,
okay.
and I'm saying this for me as well, and not just like for everyone out there, but also for me, is that sometimes you should be doing the things that you should be doing, right? Because for me back then, I should go to college, but I didn't want to. Like, who cares? Yeah, we broke. Yeah, we have debt. Yeah, well, my life is kind of unturned right now, but I don't want to stay here. But I took that leap. I took the chance, and I did it, and things turned out to be great. I have all these opportunities presented to myself, and it brought me to a place that I never thought I would be able to go to. So I think that's the message that I want to send out to people, that maybe sometimes you just can't plan your life in a way that you want it, and be open-minded. And you never know, you might find yourself in that sort of options in your decision that you make, and you'll be happy. And I think that's the thing that I wanted to say. So that's it.
Yeah, that's not regurgitating what we said. It's your own thing. Why do you preface it with that, Ethan? That was pretty good.
You didn't regurgitate, you paraphrased.
Paraphrase. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Paraphrasing. But well, I think that will mark the end of this episode as well. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Braden, for joining us today. We should do this again if you're down, but I'm having fun. I hope that you're having fun as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think we do have to do it again.
Yeah,
because we have to cover. Both you and me haven't shared our life goals yet, so we got to do that for one. Yeah, maybe we want.
I know a lot more about you guys, but yeah, I don't know. I can kind of get a sense of what you guys are aiming at, sort of.
Yeah, I guess we talked about education quite a bit here. Maybe we could talk a little bit about English. We're all in that, have that background. We could do that. We could do psychology, whatever you guys want.
Yeah.
Talk about art of some sort if you want to.
Yeah, psychology sounds fun. I will let Jacques work his monkey brain and come up with an idea. And now I'm going to turn off the recording. I'm going to edit this and I'll push it on Spotify. Well, thank you, listeners, for hanging out. It's been an hour. If you're here, if you're still here, thank you. I wish I could kiss you on the cheek or something, but
My goodness. Just end the thing. Okay, thank you very much. Braden, do you want to say a last goodbye? Any last comment? Do you promote any of your platforms, your Patreon?
Your set up right now, but I do have to say, I was like, didn't this guy say he wasn't a womanizer, and then ends by talking about kissing people? But yeah, it's been a great time. I'm glad to meet you, Ethan. I think it'd be awesome to talk to you guys again in the future here. And if you ever come to Regina, we'll have to try and meet up.
Oh, I will. This August. I got my visa. I'm gonna get my flight ticket in a few months, and I'll see you there, in Regina. Oh. Awesome, yeah. And Jacques, I hope that you're still there.
All ice cream.
Yes, I will, with my big money from the U of R that they bribed me. But anyway, goodbye now. See you later.